Welcome to this Renaissance session on Nearpod and best practices for remote teaching from home. I will be start sharing my screen now, so hopefully you can all see my Renaissance screen. But I wanted to first and foremost thank you all for joining us today. Honestly, we appreciate you taking the time to be in this webinar, especially in these challenging times for educators, teachers, students, schools, where you are, wherever you are. And today's session will be about supporting you as you continue to teach and support your students remotely, making sure that the learning and the connections can continue, whatever the circumstance. So in this particular case, this session today will cover, as you're seeing my screen, making the most out of Nearpod for virtual teaching. So hopefully most of you here are Nearpod school users, so you already have been using Nearpod, or at least your school uses Nearpod in some capacity. What we will walk you through today is essentially how to support your students in specifically virtual environments. As I just mentioned, my name is Victoria. I've been working with Nearpod for the past 10 years. I am from Argentina, but working here in the UK. And with me, I have today Gavin. Gavin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, guys. My name's Gavin. It's lovely to meet you all. So I've been an educator now for over a decade, and I've been based in the Middle East for the past 8 years. I've had a variety of roles from subject leader to lower primary school leader. I was also a whole school literacy coordinator. And I suppose I've taught online during COVID and also recently up to spring break. So I'm here to support you guys, and most importantly, the students as well.
Thank you, Gavin. And today's agenda essentially will walk you through a Nearpod overview. We are aware that some of you might be quite new to Nearpod, even though your school is using Nearpod already. So we'll walk you through very briefly what is Nearpod and what you can achieve with Nearpod while teaching remotely. We will also show you ready-to-use approaches for instant feedback. So sense check where your students are at, well-being check-ins, pre-lesson engagement through different activities that Nearpod offers. We'll show you also how to create a lesson with our AI creation tool. This is actually a really good opportunity to save time, to just quickly create resources out of any learning objectives that you might have. And we'll also show specifically how to teach remotely, whether it is synchronous or asynchronous, provided that the way that you're teaching right now, whether it is that you're doing it through a conferencing tool like we're doing now, Zoom, Teams, Google Meet, any conferencing tool, or you're not able to meet virtually with the students, but you still need to send the resources. We'll show you how to do that as well. But as I mentioned, I really want to make a quick pause here and talk about what is Nearpod. So if you have never used Nearpod before, Nearpod is an instructional and formative assessment platform that will allow you as teachers to create engaging and formative and summative lessons to help the students to assess their understanding in real time, adapt teaching during the lesson, and also to be able to accelerate the outcomes of the students. So when you're sharing these lessons, you're able to see every student where they're at, regardless of where they are geographically or where they're at in terms of performance. You can see how students are doing. You can quickly check for understanding, pivot the learning, differentiate. So all of that can be achieved through Nearpod. And hopefully, if you have never used Nearpod before, after this session, you will, and you'll learn really how big of an impact it has in teaching, whether it is in the classroom or remotely. And specifically for remote teaching and learning, we will help you today to understand that, as I said before, regardless of whether you are, there's an option to teach live or self-paced from everywhere. So even though you are in the classroom or you are from home, you can still share the same high quality lessons that you have created. So you don't need to recreate everything you did before. You can take the same lesson, teach it in a different manner with different activities or with the same ones. So this also helps the students just have familiarity and a seamless workflow across different scenarios. So it gives everything a sense of a smooth transition. So there, it actually doesn't feel like a transition at all in terms of the learning. It also helps you assess and see and address every student. So no matter where they are, even if you cannot see them in faces like you're seeing me right now, you're still able to know how they're doing, address instant misconceptions, not only after the lesson, but while you're teaching. Nearpod also allows you to adapt teaching in the moment. So you'll be able to gather that live data and instant feedback to be able to adjust explanations, explain more, open new activities, and be able to support new queries and questions. It also keeps your students actively involved throughout all the different interactive media and activities that we offer and we have, and you probably have used. And if not, I encourage you to explore. You'll realize that there's a lot of engagement that will be going on, whether it is in a assessment format, whether it is in a collaboration format, a well-being format. Gavin will show you that in a minute later. But you'll see there are many, many ways to keep the students actively involved in the learning and owning that learning. Also, it will ensure equitable access and inclusion throughout the entire classroom. Because of the tools in which we work, you'll realize there are a lot of different resources that will help you support different learning abilities and different needs for reading, for understanding. So it's not only about a screen and a keyboard. There's a lot of ways to interact with Nearpod that hopefully will help include every single student. In addition, you'll notice that Nearpod offers a lot of resources in one place. So when we are learning remotely or teaching remotely, we have many resources we're encountered with, probably a Teams or a Zoom or a Google or any type of chat or video conference, a link to a different platform, a link to a Nearpod, a link to a video, a link to a PDF. Hopefully, Nearpod will solve the fact that you can condense all of the resources in one place. So you know, once again, exactly where your students are at, but also we minimize the noise that they hear in terms of informational overload. They just receive the resources they need through Nearpod. They can access them again, and also everything will be related to your own teaching. So whether it is that you need to share a video or a PDF related to an activity, they can go within Nearpod to access all of that and be able to stay in the moment, focused. And also, it really guarantees that simplified planning for you as a teacher. So hopefully these are some of the things that you'll be seeing throughout the webinar today. And if not, we will be sharing these resources along the year as well. You can always contact us for that. I will now pass the screen or the baton back to Gavin, that he will show you some strategies to check for engagement.
Yeah,
Gavin?
thank you, Victoria. I'll just share my screen very quickly. Perfect. Just pop that out. Okay, guys. The first thing I'm going to show you is a well-being check-in, and I go to Quick Launch and I use the collaborative board to create my well-being check-in. So regardless of when my first online lesson starts, I'll always schedule a well-being check-in maybe 15 minutes before the lesson, just to check in with the students and see how they're doing, if they have any questions from the day before. And most importantly, just give the students an opportunity to collaborate with one another. So I'll pop a relaxing background in. For collaborative board topic, I'll just type in well-being check-in. And I'll also pop in a learning objective for the students. So I'll say to express ourselves, just something basic like this. And then, so you can add media. So you can add a website, you can add audio, you could upload a video of you asking the students some questions, you can upload a PDF. And for the well-being check-in, I usually just add a simple image with some questions. So I pop that in there. And they're just very, very basic questions. But we're just taking 15 minutes in the morning to give the students an opportunity to collaborate, to relax, to check in. So very basic. How are you feeling today in one word? What emoji best represents your mood today? What's one thing on your mind right now? What's something you're looking forward to today? And what's wonderful about the well-being check-in on the collaborative board is it's extremely inclusive. So some students, they might type in a sentence explaining their thoughts. Other students will draw a picture explaining how they're feeling. Some students may They may have a video recording of them answering the questions and upload it. And also, students have the opportunity to send in a voice note if they like. So I'll just do a quick launch, and then the students can engage and collaborate with one another, which is really, really important during virtual learning because it is tricky to give the students an opportunity to collaborate with one another. But this is a wonderful way. Alternatively, you have your student options. So if you want the students' responses to be private, you can simply enable those options. If you don't want the students to be able to comment on one another's posts, you can simply enable those options. I'll just give you an idea what this looks like from the student's point of view. So this is me and Victoria checking in. So I'm saying, I'm very excited to plan my persuasive writing piece today. And Victoria is engaging, saying, what topic did you choose? I said recycling. Victoria is saying she's extremely excited today. And I am asking why. And she's saying, I'm excited for my online PE lesson today. So this is just a quick way where I can engage with my class in the morning and just check in on them and see how they're doing before the first lesson begins. The second thing I'm going to touch on, which is also a quick launch feature, is the open-ended questions. So again, you can add media, you can add a website for the students to investigate and inquire into. You can add a video, a PDF, an audio recording, an image. So I'll just pop in another image here. So these are differentiated questions. So I have mild, spicy, hot, and I also have critical thinking as well. And the reason I like this feature is I can set this up at the beginning of the class, and I'll add the timer feature here, and I'll set this up for 10 minutes. And I'll say to the students, okay, the moment you join the lesson, off you go. Let's use this as a bit of a pre-assessment activity. And the students can begin and engage with the questions. They're eliciting prior knowledge, and they're letting me know their understanding of the topic before we begin. Alternatively, when the students join, they're logged into this, they're working away. With virtual learning, sometimes students aren't very punctual. It also gives you a 10-minute buffer time to let those students join. Often as well, there will be parents waiting for you. And when you join an online lesson, it gives you 10 minutes to, again, students are working away independently, but you can solve any of those problems that may be arising. I'm just going to, I'll just pop my screen off for a moment and just see if I can disable those notifications popping up. And that should be okay. Perfect. So that is your collaborative board and your open-ended question. Again, we're using collaborative board for well-being. Open-ended question, we're using that to get the students engaged in the lesson and getting them to inquire and investigate, but it's also giving us a buffer, a 10-minute buffer at the beginning of an online lesson to assist students that are coming in late on Teams, on Google Classrooms, and also support parents if they have any questions at all. The next thing I'm going to look at is our virtual reality. So I had lots of plans for my students. We were going to be attending Sharjah Archaeology Museum. We were going to be visiting the Green Planet. So some of the students are a bit disappointed with me, but this is a wonderful alternative. It really, really is. So we have virtual reality field trips. We have college tours, explorations. We have Ignite, which touches on multiple subjects. And the VR, it really, really is phenomenal. So I'm going to take you through an exploration. So if we click on preview, and again, there's lots of options, guys, from places to concepts to ideas to people. There's lots of things in terms of VR you can investigate. So if we just open this lesson here on ancient Egypt, I'll just take you through it. So what I love about the VR lessons is they still follow, I suppose they still follow an outstanding lesson framework. So you're still getting your learning objectives, your vocabulary, your pre-assessment, your formative assessment, your summative assessment, and so on. But the students are still, they're engaging in that field trip. They're engaging in that field trip. So I'll just give you an idea now. So as you can see, you have your learning objectives, you have your poll, open-ended questions at the beginning, to elicit that prior knowledge, a bit of a pre-assessment. You have a collaborative board to get the students collaborating with one another online again, which is really, really important with virtual learning. We don't want the students simply working independently. We want them collaborating as much as we can. So the first school tour they will head on during this lesson is to the River Nile. So on their iPad, they'll have a 360 view. They'll be able to explore the River Nile. You might give them 5-10 minutes to explore. When they pop out of their virtual reality, they'll then be given some open-ended critical thinking questions. So for example, think, pair, share. What advantages do you think the Nile River created for ancient Egyptians? Okay, so a wonderful opportunity for the students to reflect on their observations. Again, critical thinking, some direct teaching slides here, and then eventually they're moving on to their next tour where they will be investigating the pyramids. So I'll just pop that open very quickly. Again, on the iPad, the students will have that 360 vision, and they will be able to investigate. So I would encourage them, give them at least 5 minutes, if not more. And again, they pop out of their virtual reality, open-ended questions, a draw it activity, some direct teaching slides, and then they're moving along through the lesson. And there's actually a third virtual reality feature in this lesson where the students will be investigating a tomb, and they'll be looking at the drawings on the wall. They'll be investigating various artifacts that they can find in the tomb. So again, very engaging, and very interesting for the students. And as always, you pop out, we're thinking critically. I've inserted a web link here where the students can investigate, do some more inquiry, really extends their learning. And then we wrap it up with a quick classroom discussion, and then the students have their summative assessment, which is 2 open-ended questions. What I love about the open-ended questions in terms of virtual reality, when the students are investigating these areas, some student will investigate one area, another student will investigate another. So it's important that the summative questions are open-ended and that the students are thinking critically. So that's a VR lesson. And I'm also going to show you how you can embed VR in any lesson. So regardless of the lesson, you can integrate VR. So if I scroll down here to my lessons, so say, for example, this lesson I was working on the water cycle. So you simply just click Edit Lesson. And then as you can see, I've added in some VR into this lesson on the water cycle. So here, it's on the water cycle. So I embedded some VR on a waterfall. The students were investigating waterfalls in Brazil. So this waterfall is halfway between Brazil and Argentina. So they're investigating this. And then I added a collaborative board after with a critical thinking question, giving the students an opportunity to collaborate. I also popped a website link up here so the students can engage in further research. So regardless of the lesson, you can add VR. So I'm just going to show you how to do that now. So you simply just click Add New up the top here. You're going to be given lots of activities. If you just simply scroll down until you get to VR field trip. And then whatever lesson it is, the students can engage, whether it be the rainforest or you want them to engage and investigate a certain location. So say, for example, if I pop in here, Dubai, the students will be able to investigate a variety of locations in Dubai. So any lesson at all that's on Nearpod, you can add VR to it and the students can engage, which is really, really beneficial. So don't just think that you need to go to VR specific lessons. Any lesson you can integrate VR, and it's wonderful to integrate at the beginning of a lesson to get the students thinking, get them, I suppose, thinking critically about a topic before you begin. So what I'll show you now is how to create a lesson using AI on Nearpod. So you simply just go to your homepage and you generate a lesson with AI Create. And all you need to do in here is pop in your LO. If you like, you can select a standard, you can select a grade. So we'll say, let's just say grade 5. And I simply just pop in a learning objective here. So let's just say to investigate the rainforest and the impact humans have. If you pop that in and create lesson, it will create a lesson for you in about 20 seconds. It will give you the outline. If you're a bit, I suppose I'm a bit pedantic with my teaching, so I always want to make sure, there's self-assessment, there's peer assessment, there's critical thinking, there's collaboration, there's vocabulary. You can just simply add it in as a prompt as well. So let's just say we will add critical thinking and collaboration. So I want lots of opportunities for collaboration. I also want self and peer assessment. And the class I'm working with, there's a lot of students that their reading, I suppose, age and their vocabulary is below grade level expectations. So I might say add vocabulary activities. And then within 20 seconds or so, it's going to give you an outline of a lesson. When it gives you the outline of the lesson, you can go back in and edit topic, and you can see it here now. So just while that's generating, I'll just touch on it. So again, learning objective, vocabulary, which we asked for. You have pre-assessment, introduction, the importance of the rainforest. Okay, discuss collaboration. We asked for collaboration. You have open-ended questions. We asked for critical thinking. And they'll be embedded throughout the entire lesson. So you see you have a draw activity here. Again, more critical thinking, more collaboration. Create an action plan on draw it. Again, critical thinking, more vocabulary work. Again, more vocabulary. So a real emphasis on vocabulary, like I asked for as well. And the students will also have opportunities for their self-assessment, their peer assessment, and their summative assessment as well. So if you're happy enough with that, you can just simply click Create Lesson from Outline. So this will take about 30 seconds. So just while that's loading, I'll just open a lesson that I created earlier. And this is what it's going to look like from your side. So I'll just go through it very quickly. Whenever we hear about online learning, virtual learning, when I speak to leaders, the first thing they say, and I suppose the first thing they're worried about, is engagement. Like if we take a look through this lesson here, it has open-ended questions, critical thinking, collaboration, critical thinking, again, collaborating again, open-ended questions, a draw it activity. You have your self-assessment, you have your peer assessment, you have more open-ended questions, vocabulary work, vocabulary in context, and then it wraps up the lesson with a summative assessment. If you want to add VR into the lesson, if you want to add any additional activities, you can go ahead and do so. So the Nearpod lessons are extremely, extremely engaging. Another challenge that leaders face when looking at online learning is, can all the students access the curriculum? I know in the Middle East, there's a lot of students that are EAELL or they're new to the English language. So what I've been pushing and what we do wonderfully well at Nearpod is we can adjust the reading level of any lesson. So if you just click here, you can adjust the reading level. So say, for example, this is a grade 5 lesson I've created here. You have some students where I suppose they're still working on their foundational literacy skills. So their reading age might not be at a grade 5 level, but they can still understand the concept. You still want them working on this lesson. You can just simply click grade 3, create new leveled lesson, and this will adjust the lesson to a grade 3 reading level so all the students can access the lesson. Alternatively, if you have gifted and talented students, if you want to extend some students, if some students have a really high reading age, you can increase the reading level on the lesson. So as you see here, lower reading levels use simpler vocabulary and sentence structures, while higher levels increase text complexity. So I'll just show you what this looks like from a teacher's point of view. So I'm just going to click into my folder here where I have scaffolded reading. So these are some lessons I was teaching to a grade 2 class. So you might be familiar with the hot, spicy, mild for differentiation, or you might use level 1, level 2, level 3. So if we just look at this maths lesson here, so this is pitched at a grade 2 reading age. So this lesson here in the middle is at grade level expectations, and the reading level here is at KG. And so just to support those students that are developing their literacy skills. And then this lesson here, the reading level is at a grade 4 level. So it's beyond grade level expectations in terms of reading level, really to extend and push those students, I suppose, as far as we can. So I'll just stop sharing my screen for a moment. So stop sharing. So yeah, guys, I'm going to be here in the region for the foreseeable. I'll pop my email in the chat. So if anyone wants to reach out for a one-to-one call, if you want me to expand on any features I touched on today, I'm more than happy to meet. And hopefully, when we are back and the students are back in class, I can visit some schools and meet for coffee and so on. And that's all from my side for the moment, Victoria, if that's okay.
That is fine with me. I hope everyone can hear me okay now because I saw in the chat that you were hearing with some echo. So hopefully that is now the case. If not, I'm reading so that I can adjust my settings better. Thank you so much. So I will share my screen again. And I know that we had an agenda in which we were going to show how to teach now remotely, but I'm going to make a quick deviation from that agenda to answer. Apparently in the chat, there are a lot of questions on how you set Nearpod up to better cater your students. So how to enable the fact that they need to sign in with Teams or Google only emails, or how to enable the immersive reader. It is really easy to access all of these settings if you have not done so before. So in your Nearpod, if I'm showing my Nearpod screen, in your Nearpod account, you'll have your profile in the top right corner. In there, hopefully you'll have a photo you added or any other photo, but this is going to be your profile. And you will find the lesson settings button, which will take you to how much you can set up with Nearpod. And to all of those who asked, how do I enable the immersive reader so that my students can have the text read out loud? How do I make them join with Office 365 or Google? How do I enable student notes? How do I enable the collaborative board in student pace mode? All of those questions will be answered here. So as you can see, you just need to go ahead, explore these options if they match your needs, and you turn them on or off. Just remember that if you turn something on, you need to share a new lesson code when you're teaching. So that setting will apply to that lesson code anew. So for example, if you need the students to only join using Office and you don't want them to type their name, just enable this first option right here, which will let you do that. In the same way, if you need to enable more accessibility in your lessons, so having the kids have the text read out loud to the students, or have them being able to translate the text as well, enable the immersive reader. Then if you're sharing the lesson as a student pace, which I will show in a minute what that means, you're able to set up specific settings to allow for security and also any if you want to moderate the content that is being shared there. For example, the Collaborate board. As Gavin showed, the Collaborate board is a great space for collaboration, providing feedback, well-being, opinions, brainstorming, they checking on a concept, explaining. It's a really good tool for many purposes. But it also can be that everyone posts on the same board. So if you're sharing a student pace lesson, and the difference between a student paced lesson and a live lesson, and I will show you that now, is that one is synchronous and depends on you as a teacher, and the other one doesn't. Then if you are sharing a student pace and you are not moderating the lesson in a live manner and you share the collaborate board, you will not be able to see what students are posting until you join. So some teachers will decide to have this one off. Some teachers will decide to enable the collaborate board. It's completely up to you, but you have the option to do that from your settings. So, having explained the settings, I'm not going to go through every single one of them. I do encourage you to go to your profile and check them out. In all of these blue links, you'll have more information on how this particular setting works before you enable it, if you want to make sure that you have all the available information. But if not, I will go back to teaching remotely with Nearpod specifically. So Gavin just showed us how to create well-being activities, how to create an AI lesson, but then there's the part of teaching. Once you create a lesson, either using your resources or using AI or using any other lesson a colleague might have shared, then there's a part of, okay, how do we teach it? When you hover over a lesson, you'll identify that there's a teach button here. So it's quite easy to see. It's a blue button. If you're sharing a video, you'll notice that there's another, if it's only a video, there's another one that is called front of the class. But for lessons, you'll find a teach button. And every lesson allows you to teach in two ways. One of them is the live participation mode, and the other one is the student pace mode. And the main difference between this one, as I mentioned before, is that you're able in the live participation as a teacher to control the pace and the devices of the students. That means if you move forward in a lesson, everyone else moves forward with you. If you go back to another slide, everyone else goes back. And you're able to see in real time what students are responding. So if I click live participation right now, Nearpod will share a code with me that I can share either by sharing the code, by copying the link, or by sharing in Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams. So this also helps, as we mentioned at the beginning, create that seamless transition between platforms because students are navigating different resources right now. So if they're really used to Teams or really used to Google Classroom or any other learning management system, and you don't want them to leave that you want them to be able to be as smooth as possible, you can share the lesson through Teams or Google Classroom, whether it is live or whether it is in student-based. And this is how a live lesson will look like. So I'm not going to share the entire code, but I'll show you exactly what this will be. So as you're seeing on my screen right now, on the left-hand side, this is what the teacher will see. And on the right-hand side, this is what the student will see. So as you can see in a live participation lesson, I'm able to move forward in my lesson, and this will also be replicated in students' devices. So I'm able to know where they're at. At the same time, if the students are responding to my questions or to the activities with an answer, I'm able to see this live right here. I know that my screen is a little bit bigger, so you can see the things smaller, but you're going to see them in real size when you provide that teaching experience. So when you send the answer, as a teacher, in a live manner, I'm able to see right away that Victoria just replied to my question. So I'm able to see, click on this and explore. Or I'm also able, if I'm sharing my screen for any reason, because I'm teaching through Teams or through any other system, I can hide my students' names. And this encourages a lot of participation. And also, it brings a lot of shyer students to participate as well. So if I want to focus only on the answers and not who replied what, which, by the way, is information that you have at the end of a lesson anyway, you can hide student names and just focus on that answer. So you'll be able to see that this is the way that a live participation will work. For example, somebody asked right now in the chat, how do I engage younger students, so younger kids, or also how do I create a table for everyone to complete? The drawing tool in that perspective is one of my favorite tools because it's very versatile. So what it allows you to do is it allows the students to draw using the crayon, the highlighter, the text, and to answer specific questions. So for example, label the planet. I'm now able to point exactly where I need to or write the name of the planet right here using text. And these are all things that will be showing in my teacher view as well once I start submitting the drawing. So I get to see in real time what was done. And then if I click, it takes a couple of seconds because it's based on Wi-Fi, but it usually shows me what my progress has been from my student in real time. So that is the live participation mode. Now, as I said before, I'm going to go here. The other option is to share a lesson in student paced. So the student pace option actually, what it does is it allows us to teach in an asynchronous mode. So once again, if you're not able to connect with your students live, if you know that some students don't have a good internet connection or a good structure to be able to connect where they are, if you need to differentiate and you know that students need to go at a different pace than the classroom that you're teaching, whether it is that they need more time or they go a lot quicker, you can share the same lesson as a student pace. So this makes sure that you're not only not recreating the resources, creating a new entire lesson again, but also that you're able to reach your students by saving that time as well. So when you share student pace or you click student pace, you'll notice there are a couple of settings that you can also enable. So in the same way that live participation lets you share the lesson through any type of learning management system you need, through a link, etc. This one also will allow you to enable for how many days you want the lesson to be open. This is really good for planning. So, for example, if you're teaching today and you want the lesson to be able to be open until the weekend only, and we're going to revisit on Monday, we're going to set up this so that it is only valid until Sunday evening. So I'm going to apply the changes, and now the lesson is only valid for the next 3 days. In the same way, because you're not able there to see how students are doing in the moment, but you're able to still track the progress anyway, you can require student responses so that they prevent skipping slides. Meaning that if they're going to be navigating the lesson and they want to move forward to go in advance without answering the question they're currently in, you can prevent this by enabling this option. So whenever they're in a question, they cannot move forward unless they have responded. The same thing in a video. They cannot skip the video if they have not replied to the questions in that video. So this is a really good setting if you're not able to moderate live what's going on specifically with the students in the student pace. However, if you do want to check where students are at, you can always click view progress, and that will take you exactly to seeing, okay, who has joined my lesson? Right now, nobody has, but if not, I will see my students. And if I go to the specific activities that I have here, I will be able to see what my students are doing. So even though I'm not moderating the pace for them, I am still able to access what they're doing in real time. So that essentially concludes what we wanted to show you today. However, I want to show you one more thing in case you have never seen this. And this is something that is really important for your own teaching purposes. Like we keep mentioning in this webinar, it is really important that we maintain as educators the normalcy of the classroom for students anywhere. And this means that if you already have existing lessons on resources that you are planning on teaching in the classroom, you can use them in Nearpod and repurpose them for that. So that when you go back into the classroom, they can also be used in the classroom again through Nearpod. Nearpod is a tool that was built for an in-classroom experience. But then when we went through the pandemic a couple of years ago, we incorporated many, many tools that allow it to also be used for remote teaching. So now it's a great tool for anywhere the students are, whether it is in a physical classroom, whether you have some students at home, some students in the classroom, or everyone is learning remotely. Nearpod will help you solve everything because it's the one thing that will be exactly consistent is how you'll be teaching through Nearpod. And in that case, we understand and appreciate that you have put a lot of effort into creating lessons, resources, any type of material that you want to share with the students. And that is great because you don't need to recreate anything in Nearpod. Gavin showed us how to create a lesson from scratch using AI, which saves a lot of time. Believe me, it really saves a lot of time. But if you already have your own lesson, then I recommend that you bring it to Nearpod. So in this case, you will go to launch the lesson builder. and you will upload a lesson, meaning I will upload my own lesson. In this case, I have a PowerPoint here for an English lesson that I will drop into my chat, into my box, sorry. You can also upload it from OneDrive, Google Drive, or Dropbox. And some people were asking, what if the format changes when I create a PowerPoint? What if I lose? Well, my recommendation will be upload it as images so that the format stays the same. Uploading as PowerPoint allows you to edit the slides, but if you upload it as images, the format stays the same if you know you do not want to change any of the content that you have created. So that's really important. That's the difference between keeping it as PowerPoint or uploading it as images. But once you have done that, then it takes usually a couple of seconds, depending on how heavy your lesson is, how many slides it has, or how complex it is, how your Wi-Fi is working. Just give it a minute. I know everything is immediate, but this one can wait for a couple of seconds. And then you will have your entire lesson in your Nearpod presentation. So now it's a matter of two things. Either you want to teach it right away, or if you want to really use the engagement piece and add more engagement tools, you can add all of the activities that we have available. So through the Add New button here that you'll find in the top left corner, you can add many of the interactive media and activities that we currently have. However, because we have, someone said in the chat, we're in times of AI. That is true. And we have a tool that allows you to create lessons based on a prompt. But we also have a tool that allows you to create activities based on your lesson. So it will not be taking the information from anywhere other than your lesson. If your lesson is good, if you created it, if you know what the words are, the content, then the activities will only be like the lesson. And that is on the left, on the right side corner, sorry. I hope you can see the size here. I'm going to increase my size for a minute. You will see a little magic wand. So it's a star with a stick. When you click on it, now the tool will read my lesson, whether it is an image, whether it is text, and it will create activities only based on this lesson. So not taking the content from anywhere else, it will create what it recommends to be an instructional way of engaging my students with this lesson. So recommending, for example, a poll at the beginning, because this is a lesson about emotive language, a poll to sense check well-being like Gavin created a couple of minutes ago, a draw it tool to show different emotions, and also an open-ended question. And I can choose to add all of them, or I can recreate them if I don't like some of them, which is fine. And once I do, not only they will be added in my lesson, they will be added exactly where they're supposed to be. So, oh, actually, though that added at the beginning. So this is all the 3 slides that will be at the beginning of my lesson because it's really important that my students begin there. If I want to add more lessons, I will do the same thing again and add activities with AI, or I can go ahead and add my own. And as anything in Nearpod, everything can be changed and customized to match your teaching needs. So if you feel like this question for older students should be different, you can duplicate the lesson, change the instruction to this question, or change the activity altogether and keep an exact copy, but with the activities that are a little bit more complex or a little bit more adjusted to their reading, learning, and teaching level. And once you have a lesson that is ready to be taught, you're going to save it. And once again, you're presented with the option. How do I teach it? How am I teaching? Is it remotely? Is it in the classroom? Is it live? Is it student paced? It's going to be up to you entirely, depending on what you want to achieve with your students. So I now want to share. Hopefully this will work. It's not really working right now for me. Let me see. Okay, there we go. So there we go. All right. Hopefully in this learning summary on this session, you learned a couple of things with us. First and foremost, Nearpod in practice. So how Nearpod will support engagement, interaction, and assessment in any remote or blended learning. It also, we also showed you how to use practical strategies for instant feedback. Gavin showed main strategies at the beginning, whether it is a quick check, whether it is an activity, AVR. There's a lot of things that you can quickly achieve with Nearpod. They don't need to be entire complex lessons, which you can do also, by the way. Also, how to create fast lessons using AI Create, which is a great tool. And also, I just showed you how to use the other AI activity creation based on your lesson, and also flexible teaching approaches, how to use live participation or student-paced lessons. But I know that we have about, I would say, 5 to 7 minutes more. So what I want to do is I want to stop sharing my screen right now and answer some of the questions that I see in the chat if I can. So for example, I'm going to be reading the questions in the Q&A. That's okay. So I see that some teachers are not, I can see one question here that says that they're not getting the options to create with AI. That means you're not in a school license. At the beginning of the session, we mentioned that this is a session for school users to be able to leverage these tools. If you're not in a school license, just make sure that you are in a school license so that you can access those tools. This is really important. And you cannot, there's another question here that says whether or not you can customize the class code. The class code cannot be customized. It's an alphanumeric set of digits. Um, just keep in mind that every code that you share creates one report. So if you want to segment between classes, you're teaching with the same lesson in multiple scenarios, then just share as many codes as you need to get those reports as organized as possible. It's going to be a lot easier for you. Here, how to delete a lesson. Yes, I can show how to delete a lesson. Sorry, I'm reading through the questions right now. So when you go to your Nearpod account, let me go back to my Nearpod account. You'll see there are a lot of three dots everywhere. These are menus. The menus will help you navigate and customize anything that you need. So for example, within a lesson, if you want to delete a lesson, you hover over the lesson, you click the three dotted menu here, and you click delete. That's as easy as that. Just be mindful, we can recover them, but it's a very lengthy process. So if you have a school edition, you have unlimited storage of Nearpod. What I usually do if I don't have it here, you create a folder that's called delete and move them there. If you don't want to see them, instead of deleting lessons, which may be useful for you in the future, move them here because they're not gonna take up any storage given that you have unlimited storage. Okay, on a school library, because you are all school users, or I think the majority of you are, you may have access to a school library. The school library here, what it will do is it will enable collaboration between you and your colleagues. So if you have a school license, but you've never used a school library before, it's a place in where you can share your lessons with other teachers or your other colleagues within the same school. So for example, if I click school library, I'll be taking to everything my colleagues have shared. So my headmaster or principal has created different folders for me to organize, whether they're folders based on subjects, on year grades, it doesn't matter. It's up to you how you create this one. You can create folders and subfolders, and then different team members can share lessons in that library. So you're not able to delete lessons because you're not, I am because I am an administrator. But if you're a teacher and you're not an administrator, you're not able to delete other colleagues' lessons. What you can do is if you accidentally shared a lesson in the school library, please ask your administrator to go ahead and delete it for you. They're able to do that by doing what I'm doing right now. So it's just easy to delete from the administrator side. But the reason why you cannot delete them yourself is because if you post a lesson that's really good and somebody else comes and deletes it, it's not going to be really useful. So it's reserved for administrators, which helps moderate a lot of the content in Nearpod.
Just one more thing on the school library, guys. It's really, really beneficial for heads of departments, and particularly during online learning. And if you want to pop in, Monday's lesson for all of grade five, all of the educators can access it. They'll all be teaching the same lessons, and it just encourages that consistency across the grade group, and it makes moderation a lot easier when you're going in and investigating.
Thank you, Gavin. That's exactly right. So, all right. So, and I have one more question in the chat. Sorry, while you were talking here, I was reading the chat as well. Somebody asked about reports. I don't know if you have seen our reports lately, but let me show you a really good example. Just to clarify, these are not real students. This is a report that I can show with all of you. They have names that look quite as real students, but they're not real students. This is what a report would look like in terms of what if I created a Nearpod lesson that had all of the available activities and I have graded everything? I am that teacher that does absolutely everything. First and foremost, that is not the expectation. If you share a Nearpod lesson with all of the activities, the students will be a little bit overwhelmed. It's probably not going to be on the pedagogical side. In the same way, what happens if you share a lesson with no activities is not going to be engaging on the Nearpod side. So what we encourage is do not do this, but this is how it will work with every single activity. As you can see, the reports have improved a lot since the last year, at least, yeah, in the last year, because you're now not only able to see the summary of participation, but you're able to grade the activities and really quickly see how students are doing and how they did overall. So you can see students and questions, for example, that had more incorrect answers than correct answers, like the fraction tiles, and the ones that got a lot more correct ratio. This is a summary report. However, if you want to check what happened per activity, you're going to click on the activity report right here, and you're able to see what happened in each particular question. So for example, this is a drag and drop, and I can see the students that did right and the ones that probably need a little bit more help or time, and the ones that also did not submit the activity. They were connected to my lesson, but they did not complete what they needed to. If I want to check what happened with a particular student instead of focusing on an activity, I can go here and just choose one of my students and see, okay, how did they do in every single activity in the lesson? So I'm able to check, for example, the drag and drop, the drawing, and the different activities, whether it was auto-graded, like this one, there was a correct answer, or whether I need to go ahead and say, okay, is this actually what I asked? So some activities will be auto-graded. Some of them you will have to add the grade yourself. And another good thing is that Nearpod will always flag you when you have incorrect answers or a question has been answered with more than 70%, sorry, in less than 70% correct ratio. So for example, the video one, this student got all of the questions wrong. So I have an orange, you can see it's very tiny, but in a larger screen, it'll be a lot larger. It's an orange icon that says this student could use a bit more help. In the same way, if you identify this in any activity, I think I have one here. There we go. If you go to any quiz and you find that there's a question that has been mostly frequently missed, Nearpod will also flag you. So you might want to address the misconceptions here first to see, okay, why is it that this question was mostly frequently missed? Do I need to adjust the question? What is it? Was it a topic that is not really understood by the students? So it's something for me to check, and I can really easily say which one should I be focusing on first. There are a lot of questions in the chat. I don't think I'll be able to get through all of them. Mirail, I'm reading the question. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name right. I'm reading the question about hiding student names when you share reports with students. So what I would do is if you don't want to share the entire report with a student, what I would do is I would download the student report for that particular student. So in every report that you have, you can download it. On the top right corner, you see the button download. You're going to click instead of entire lesson report, student report. And then you can either download a folder with all of the individual student files, or you can go to that specific student you want to download and you're going to send it via email. Or if you use Google, you can save it to Google Drive. And that will save you a lot of time. And also, it will not allow the students to see the other students' names, but only their own performance. All right, perfect. I think we are good. Gavin, is there anything else that you wanted to add here?
No, I'm all good from my side. Thanks, Victoria.
Fantastic. So, two more things before we leave. One of them is I wanted to first and foremost thank you all of you for being here today. I think this is a great opportunity to leverage the tool that your school already has, which is Nearpod, and will allow you to, as I said before, not only keep the students engaged while you're teaching remotely, but also be able to transition back in the classroom and then keep them engaged in the classroom as well. So that's really important. And the other thing is do we will be as Chloe mentioned in the comments and we're always mentioning you will receive the recording of the webinar, which is important. So if you have signed up and you're here, you will get a recording. Hopefully you can revisit this whenever you can, share with other colleagues. And the other thing is, I'm going to read through the questions and send resources if we were not able to manage to answer all of your questions live. But thank you very much for staying here with us. And remember to please share your